We're going to talk to you about a trend we've been seeing a lot. And because it's a trend we've been seeing a lot, hey, Kay.
Oh,
Hello. Because it's a trend we've been seeing a lot, and it seems maybe at the outset that it's a great idea and such a super opportunity. Because of that, we wanted to discuss it. So, what is that trend that we've been hearing so much about?
it is day rates. So day rates being charging your clients by the day. They book you and they get you for, I was going to say 8 hours, but a lot of what I've seen, people are like 6 hours or 5.5. And that's what we're going to dig into is day rates. We have a
Mhm.
lot of feelings.
Yeah. So, yes, very strong. So, I think at the outset, to a copywriter, maybe initially it could be like, whoa, if I charge $2,000 for a day rate, maybe I only have to work 4 days the entire month or 4 or 5 days the entire month and I hit six figures. And I think initially that sounds very exciting. And I think that sounds very exciting. Well, initially it sounds exciting. I think that sounds exciting from the copywriter side. Um,
Sounds terrifying to my side.
right? Well, so let's start there. Like,
Yeah.
I agree that it sounds terrifying. I mean, what sounds terrifying to you?
Yeah. I mean, I think your point, when I hear that, it's one of those, this falls under the, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If someone's paying me $3,000 for a day's worth of my time, what are the deliverables? What are the expectations that they hope to get out of that? And I think even if you set that at the outset of you have a day of my time and here's our goals for it, why wouldn't you give yourself more time to do a project? There's very few, in fact, I would say no reasons why someone needs copy, the next day or within 2 days even. So if you have, a whole email sequence you want to do for someone, or you want to revamp their homepage, doing it in a day is wild to me. That means I'm not going to put my best copy out within 24 hours. There's no way. There's no way. I want to process all the information the client's giving me. I need to, and even if I do that in advance, getting on the call with them, talking things through, writing my draft, revising my draft, and building in that time to really sleep on it and think, ooh, here's a better thought, or here, this, it doesn't all just come down to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's you adding that pressure of that, like it must be done, and because it's not cheap, it must be done really well in one day is so unnecessary. The pressure is unnecessary. To your point, there's going to be no client that is like, oh, I must have this copy in the next 6 or 8 hours or whatever, and I think sometimes too people think, well, like when I worked my full-time job, I worked 8 hours, so no big deal. There's a real big difference between working your regular job or whatever and sitting down and actually writing or revising copy for 8 hours. That is, or 6 hours, whatever. It is so intensive. The brain work is so intensive. And talk about like pressure pressure to be creative, pressure to do your best work. And this would be one of those times, we talk about how great deadlines are, but this would be one of those times where it's not great because, whereas, okay, I have a deadline of next week, so I need to get this project done and I need to do some concepting and some outlining here and then do some writing here. But when you have the pressure is 5 o'clock today, or, I'm delivering a finished sales page, so I have to get first round done by 1 o'clock. Then I have to incorporate client feedback, and you're trying to beat the clock, and that pressure just, I don't know anybody who can be creative under a time pressure of like a couple hours, or who can do their best work under time pressure of a couple hours.
And where I think it comes from is not just, you're probably going to be expected to deliver a lot more than copy, right? Like these are people that want to book you and maybe, use you as a consultant, like yes, deliver copy, but they're going to also expect a decent bit of marketing expertise to guide them where they need to go, right? I mean, I think the other thing about this and why I say it, because a lot of what I'm seeing is from folks in particularly working with coaches or course creators. They're in a very specific space where they say, you know, you can get on my calendar faster. Well, in my mind, if I'm booked out for 2 months, I'm booked out for 2 months, and maybe I can squeeze in a project, tiny project here or there, but not a full day. And so I think from them is they have a big project they're working on with like a huge, you know, working with a client, they have a launch coming up. And so I have this big email sequence and all of these things to deliver. So maybe I can squeeze this person in just for a day. But that's such a small subset of the opportunities available to copywriters. So I think especially when new copywriters see this, it can be like, ooh, day rates, that sounds awesome. But then there's so much more opportunity to work with clients on your timeline and not having to do that and still making great money doing it.
Yeah. Well, and it's so, you know, it's the concept of day rates is very us centric, right? Like, I'm a copywriter, I want to make this money for one day. It's not client centric. You're not doing the client any kind of favor by saying, all right, you're going to get me, and you're going to get me for 8 hours in one day. Like, that's not solving any kind of client problem. It's solving a copywriter's desire to make a whole bunch of money at once. But it's not, your client is never going to have the problem of like, oh, I need a copywriter for 8 hours today. Your client is going to have a problem of, not problem, but have a need for, I need a sales page, or I need a this, or I need a that. And maybe it is too. They need a set of Facebook ads. Then they need some funnel. They need some email funnel, emails for an email funnel. Then they need a sales page. Then they need a this. Which, by the way, when you're working on a day rate, it's you're working, the deliverable isn't projects. It's the deliverable is you'll get what you get in 8 hours or 5 hours, which is so not helpful to a client. A client wants to actually know what they're going to walk away with at the end of a project. And when you say, all right, we're going to do this project together, and you're going to get 3 Facebook ads to test, you're going to get a 7 email funnel, you're going to get a sales page, then great, they know and they understand exactly what they're going to get. And, you know, you tell them how much it's going to be. But whereas when you say, all right, I'm just going to write for you for a day, and you get what you get at the end of that day, like, no client wants that. No client wants to be like, yes, I'll give you $2,000 for whatever I can get. It is not providing a service to your client. And it's so unnecessary, because you could be, you could do that same work, you know, do the same work that you would fit in that time and charge the same amount without having that like day of pressure, that day of misery. Also, by the way, what happens if you wake up that morning and it's not a good day? You know, what happens if you wake up and you're feeling off, or, you know, just like, it's not a good day. You know what I mean?
I got sick from my dinner last night. I was like, and I'm not having the best day. And so I'm doing work. Yes. But it would be awful if I booked a client for this day and I'm like, oh crap, and I have to $3,000, $4,000 pressure to deliver in a day. Also, I just feel a little bit slimy charging. To your point, I can charge $3,000 for whatever the amount of work is with a set deliverable and spread it over potentially the same number of hours. Mm-hmm. Do it in it just feels wrong to me.
Part of what clients are paying us for is the time that we put in to think about a project and to concept it and to revise it and make sure that we do it well. And we build that time into our projects. And because we also build in the time to do the work, walk away from it, come back. Now, obviously, we're not charging for the time we're walking away from it, but maybe we should, since that's important to let our brain process it and come up with great ideas. But yeah, so instead of getting the benefit of a project where we get up, we walk away, we come back, we look at it with fresh eyes, instead, they're not getting those fresh eyes at all. They're getting us going, okay, I have to write as much as I can, as fast as I can. And I've never had an experience where a copywriter who had to write as much as they could, as fast as they could, delivered good work.
Yeah. And I want to make the caveat, because I feel like the objection would be, well, that just makes you bad copywriters, that you can't write copy fast or whatever it is. And that's so not true. I think we're damn good copywriters, mm-hmm. But we're also treating our clients with, I feel like, the respect that their project deserves. And again, not just I want to make a fast dollar, so I'm going to try to charge it this way. It just doesn't, it doesn't make sense. You know, I'm a relatively fast writer, but I also know that time to sit on things is invaluable. That time to get up and walk away is invaluable.
Yeah. I mean, as we say, not even half of copywriting is the actual writing. That editing and that thinking it through and approaching it from different angles is a big part of it. Being fast is not necessarily a great goal for copywriters. Like if you are brand new, yes, the more you do it, you will naturally probably get a little bit faster, but fast, just for the sake of being fast, doesn't really benefit anyone. You know, you when you're working with the client and you say, all right, well, let's figure out the timeline. When do you need to get the first draft? You're never going to have a client that's like, oh yeah, I need the first draft in the next 2 hours. Like that's not how it works. So it's not necessary for it to be a goal to be fast. And so to charge a day rate as a copywriter, it just doesn't make any sense because you're actually producing things. Now, if this were something different, if it were just like you were saying, if it were just marketing consulting, where you're sitting down and, you know, it's okay, for the first hour, we're going to talk about your challenge, your business challenges and your business opportunities. Okay. And then but that's a totally different, not a totally different field, but that's a different service. Actually offering copywriting on a day rate, it just doesn't, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't serve the client. I think and quite frankly, it doesn't serve us as copywriters. When Kate and I were talking about this, I said it reminded me of when one semester in college, was probably like my second semester, and I scheduled all of my classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I was like, oh my God, it's gonna be so great because I'm only gonna have to work on Tuesdays and Thursdays and I'll be able to take my time off on the other days. It was a terrible plan because it was miserable on Tuesdays and Thursdays because it was back to back to back to back to back. And then on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I was so like exhausted from Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then also I had no, I mean, granted I was a kid, but I had no structure. So I ended up wasting those days anyway. And I'm not saying that you would waste your non-day work, your non-day rate work as a copywriter, but it's just to set yourself up to be like miserable for a day. Not miserable, but like that intense pressure, and that it just doesn't make any sense. It's so unnecessary. It's one of those things like scheduling it so that I only had classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It seems like such a great idea, and it's really not. It doesn't benefit your client, and in the end, it doesn't benefit you as the copywriter.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think the one case I want to point out where maybe someone might ask you for a day rate is if maybe you're going on with an agency to work on a project and they might ask for a day rate. Essentially, though, I feel like it comes down to almost your hourly rate if you're going to be at the agency for 8 hours a day. And, you know, that's more often than not what it'll kind of shake out to. So you might see it come up in that situation, but we're talking, I would say, more strictly offering day rate as a service. And I know a lot of people like to offer packages, and, you know, we talk about why that's not necessarily the best approach either. You know, if you're only aiming for people that want an email sequence and a landing page is a $10,000 package, then you're putting a lot of other work. You're missing out a lot of other work. You're leaving it on the table, which fine, plenty of copywriters to do that work. But, you know, the day rate is the alternative to these packages. So it's cheaper, but why not then just scope it out the work with your client, take that little extra step and be the service provider that they're hiring you to be.
Yes, exactly. It's the packages have the same problem. I'm sure we'll hop on live and talk about packages and on the podcast as well. Which if you're not subscribed to the Build Your Copywriting Business podcast, go check it out with your podcast provider. But yeah, it's the concept of a day rate. It's very selfish concept. Because every client is going to, and same thing with packages. Not selfish so much with packages, but it doesn't make as much sense as you think it does. Every client is going to be different. Every client is going to have different needs. Every client so you can't go into it being like, I'm going to give you this and it's going to fit in this box and that's what you get. Because then you're not being the partner that they need you to be. What you need to be is the partner who comes in, sits down with them, talks to them about their business, about their goals, and then says, okay, let's talk about these projects. And this is a lot of projects. So you know what? Let's order these in terms of priority. And that is what clients want. They want someone who is going to help them strategize, who's going to take that thinking off their plates so that they can move on and do something else, do the stuff that they are focused on, instead of like, okay, I'm just going to show up and I'm going to write for 8 hours and you tell me what you want me to write, and at the end of 8 hours you'll get what you get. Like, nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. You are a much better copywriter and a much better partner to do the former versus the latter, to show up and be that partner and personalize and customize what the client gets. And quite frankly, I'm telling you, this day rate thing, the idea of opening up my laptop and writing for 5, 6, 8 hours straight and trying to do the very best work that I possibly could and cram in as much work as possible, that sounds like the worst. That sounds like, and talk about, I love copywriting. If that's how I did it, it would make me hate copywriting. It would ruin the career for me.
100%. I'm still thinking, like, could I deliver $3,000 worth of value to a client? Potentially.
Sure.
Some other clients, though, very likely not in once. There's no way. And how terrible would that make? I would feel terrible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just not, it's not necessary. It's not a good solution for anybody. So if you guys have seen the other writers talking about day rates, which is another reminder that just because people say that they sell something or they have it on their websites doesn't mean that anybody's actually buying it. I could put on my website like, oh yeah, I sell homepage rewrites for $12,000. I can say that, but it doesn't mean that anybody actually buys that. So bear that in mind, that just because you see day rates, it could be that the copywriters had this genius idea that they're going to start offering day rates, and now they're telling everybody about their day rates.
Well, not to go off on too much of a tangent, but I think it raises a great point of, I would much rather have steady client work than be chasing my next $3,000, $10,000, $15,000 project. That is stressful to me. I say this because someone posted in the group today about, a $500 client versus a $5,000 client, and how the $500 client is more gonna nitpick and is needy and needs handholding, which isn't always the case. I get where that's coming from, but I've had plenty of clients that started off as a $500 project, but then month after month after month after month, that equals a lot more than $500. And I'd rather have that with a couple of different clients and be doing consistent work. I don't want to sit on my butt all day. I want to earn my money and feel good that my clients feel good working with me.
Yeah.
So, I'd much rather do that than be like, okay, I need my next $10,000 project and, block off my time like that. That's far more stressful, at least for me, and how I want to run my business. I want to be a partner with my clients and have them come back for more. And if it's for smaller projects, so be it.
Well, it's, $500 for a $500 project is perfect. That's reasonable. I think yes, $500 for a $2,500 project, that's running into trouble. Or when a client's like, well, I can only afford to pay you this, or, they're trying to get you for cheap or that kind of thing, then yeah, that's valid. That's a potentially a problem client. But $500 for a $500 project, that's a perfectly fine opportunity, a perfectly fine client, and an opportunity to your point, to sell them on other work later as you get to know their business, because you've done this project for them, and now that you've done this, I don't know, welcome email or whatever, maybe it's a really short nurture sequence or whatever, then you know their business and you can say, hey, I noticed that this, or we're driving them to this page, and this page could be so much more effective if it were blah, 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 blah. can I, do you want to talk that through, and then can I price out that project for you? That is being that valuable partner. And unfortunately, you can't do that with a day rate. You just can't. It just doesn't work that way. Yay. Yay! So thanks for joining me, Kate.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Talk it through. You and I, when we were initially talking about the topic, started to get all riled up the other day. So it's good to get all riled up here where everybody can see it. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you later.